All right, now it should be on. I am setting my. Okay, there's my notes. I took a lot of notes. I'll give you the notes too, but I'm trying to be thorough,
Awesome.
especially since you're one of my friends. Um,
Yeah, I
so yeah,
appreciate it. I've sort of shot up to 40, and then real life started kicking my ass pretty hard, and I got sick and I got unfocused, and I sort of dropped a little bit, and I feel like I've really stagnated as a player a
yeah.
lot.
Well, that
So
definitely happens. I definitely feel like that a lot, but a lot of it for me is just like, oh wait, what's the button for this? Or like taking too long doing something that shouldn't have taken me nearly as long, or wouldn't have taken that long in the past. So now all of a sudden, my units are dead because I wasn't looking at them, or whatever it is.
yeah.
Anyways, pretty standard opener. Let's just speed up a little bit.
Um, so this is what I do in this opener is something that I've seen Glass do a lot of
Mm,
times from this position, where you see I've drawn this arrow and asked for a
yeah.
transport. So he'll do this thing where he opens up with a bunch of bot constructors and ecos in his base with them, and then transports his commander and a construction turret forward, and does like a forward lab on that
Yeah,
position.
I think it's a cool play for sure. Did you say that he did it on this map?
He does it on this map specifically in this position, like either
Oh,
side where me
interesting.
or yellow are. He it very commonly goes for that.
Yeah,
Like every
I'd
game
say
I've seen
it's
him play this map.
pretty good. The only
So
thing is, well, so I guess just to pause really quick. The only thing is the other guy that's on the hill with you is only a 22. So you can't really expect too much out of him, and it's going to be hard to claim the hill. Now, if he was a better
yeah,
player and he's able to get up here and set up some defenses and stuff, then your forward position is really good. But
I think with
or go ahead.
I just think with the terrain, it often works,
Hmm.
especially with like calm being as strong as it is. The
Yeah,
only thing I'm scared of is getting pushed by two comms or something. But
right.
because like this terrain, it's very hard for people to push the lab position. Like they can push you off the geo, but I think it's hard for them to get over the hill, personally.
Yeah, right.
And
It's hard for them to push past this line basically because that's where the hill is.
yeah, I think that I get what you're saying about like, oh yeah, if he's not a very good player, like, and it might make my transition to the forward lab better, but I feel that I don't know who, like I don't know at this point that I'm against yellow and orange, obviously.
Hmm.
Um so I think I have to just play like I'm not playing against significant, like I have to play like it's a winnable matchup players wise. Like I don't know.
Mm.
I get what you're saying, but I just yeah.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I would actually argue instead of um, thinking about it like, don't assume that they're the good players. I would say always assume that they're the good players. Because that
Hmm.
way you're always making like the best choice considering. And if they're not the good players, then you should have an easier time anyways, even if you do something that makes it harder on yourself given that
Yeah.
situation.
I'd rather assume my opponent is competent and be like have a surprisingly easy time than,
Right.
assume that I can get away with something that I can't.
Exactly. Yeah. And so on this map in particular, the reclaim is really important. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's useful, it's good. It's not that much though. I mean, it's not that big a deal. The bigger deal is this 3.4 and
So
just
the
being able to keep your side of the mexes.
yeah. The reclaim, I know it's pretty kind of important. So I do pawn, resbot, pawn as my first three units to try to contest it.
Hmm.
Like we can unpause and see how
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
plays out.
Totally.
I do something similar when I'm playing frontline on Supreme Straight, where I go pawn, resbot, pawn, or pawn, resbot, pawn, pawn out of the lab
Hmm.
initially to try to get that early reclaim.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a good starting idea. Yeah, this is good. You got your ticks out here, but unfortunately they already got grunts up here.
Yeah. And I actually kind of just APM stall and lose a pawn. But when I see
Yeah,
that
that'll
they've
happen.
made as many grunts as they did, I just am like, okay, well, they're just gonna get it, but they spent way more on these grunts,
Hmm.
so I just have to deal with it. I don't think that it's worth trying to, keep pumping pawns and over invest into that personally.
No, I think you're totally right, because I mean, the sooner you get to like plasma bots, or the sooner you get to your vehicles or whatever, else that you're doing, like the sooner you get to your stronger units, the easier it is for you to have a bigger number of those to push into,
Yeah.
their units. So
The grunts are scary now, but I'm not going to be able to, like, there's already 6 grunts here, so I'm not going to be able to stop
right,
it. Like, he suicides one, but whatever.
yeah. So here's your transport, get your lab. So here, I would say grab the mechs first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like, I mean, I understand you want the units for sure, and that's not like an awful, it's not like a big deal, but like, I guess just to me, since on this map you only have 3 starting mechs here, you don't have anything in between, and this is like your 4th mech, so like this is kind of a big deal, just because there's only so many to have.
Yeah. And I'm also building the lab when I don't have enough metal for it, which is really troll.
Yeah. I wouldn't say, I mean, it's not that bad. I've definitely seen worse, but yeah, I noticed that at this point you have 2 idle cons here
Yeah.
that could
So
be that
if
I
that
know that
build power is
they
reclaiming,
right,
and I'm taking the mechs and then I build the lab, it's just going to be smoother. I'm not going to metal stall.
exactly. Yeah,
This is something I identify myself in my own
yeah,
replay
totally.
review, though.
Good. Well,
It's very easy to see in a replay. It's just harder. It's like an execution thing because I'm like, there's
mhm,
these grunts running around. I'm trying to stop them, like micro my pawn. I'm trying to watch and
right.
make sure that my ally's not dying, killing himself, and that my commander is safe to, like, I'm actually safe to take this position. So
Yeah, there's always
there's,
so much to do.
yeah. So yeah, like, I appreciate you bringing it up because obviously it is something to work on and something to notice.
Mhm.
But what I'm trying to,
Well,
that's like a thing.
I completely understand that it's a mistake. It's not like you intentionally did that and it's just wrong.
Mhm.
It's just like, oh, you didn't have the APM or you're busy doing other stuff. Like, totally. I completely get that, especially with me and my hands and my issues. Um,
Yeah,
but I would say that at our level, like that's oftentimes the hang up is like little things like that can definitely propel, you know,
yeah,
us into a higher position. I like your little move your shit around a little bit
yeah,
so that it's closest to the geo.
yeah. Because I am gonna take the Geo. That's
Yeah.
like the main point of what I'm doing.
Hmm.
This is pretty scary with Screwish's commander this far up, but
Yeah, that is very far up. So he's in a great position here. But yeah, there's 2 of you here, so you can kind of shoot him
yeah,
away.
he has to walk away because the 2 comms will laser him down.
Oh, something else really quick. I mean, I know like, I mean, you and I are both like vehicle players. We like doing Armada vehicle. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, and I would say that it does work out here, but it is just like I guess I just wanted to look at this really quick because there's so little traversability out of your base and stuff that it gets a little rough.
So my intention with the vehicle lab, I'm
Hmm.
gonna be honest, is to just abuse shell shockers because this lane is like quite stagnant. And it's a little bit narrow to where the units will be clumped up. So the
Hmm.
area of effect of those tier 1 artillery is going to just start being really, really hard for them to deal with. So that and because my ally is bots as well,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think it's
and
a really good
yeah,
choice. Like I actually made a comment on here about your unit composition is actually really good for this position. The artillery,
yeah,
the few whistlers you got, you know, like they
just
help you
enough to
cope.
spot.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then you get a couple Janus, and like of course Janus is really good against clumps of units, and they end up clumping because it's such a small area. So you can get some nice shots off.
another reason for the vehicles is that I'm just not as confident of a thug resbot type player, and I know that Screwish plays core bots a lot, and he's very good at it. So I don't really want to play like I'm kind of playing the player. I don't want to play him and something that he's comfortable on and good at.
Yeah, that makes
Especially
sense.
especially as Armada against core, because I think thugs are just kind of better than maces for the most part
Oh,
because they repair
definitely.
faster.
Yeah,
So
they
I
repair
yeah,
faster. They've got that 100 hit point advantage. Even if they cost a
yeah.
little bit more metal, like it's not that big a deal. But yeah, I'd say that that's a good choice. Like you're thinking about, you know, your opponents. You know what they're, you know, what kind of player they are, and you can anticipate what they're, you know, gonna do and what they're good at, so that you can, you know, come up with the answer to it. You know, and you know, I would say the composition in this situation is actually really good. Because you know, vehicles are not so great because it's such a steep hill and it's so like choky and stuff at some points. Um, you know, but at the same time, it is a choke, and vehicles do better in chokes. Like, you know, one of the benefits of having bots is they can, you know, they can turn on a dime and run somewhere else, so that, like, you know, if a vehicle player is poised and positioned and moving towards a location, you know, to respond to, say, your bot's moving into that location, you could just change direction, and all of a sudden the vehicles have to, like, you know, take time to turn around and stuff. But here it's such a narrow area that it's easy to catch up with them. You know, you don't really have to do a ton of turning. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
in that
mostly just
same
have
kind
to
of
sling
sense,
back and
like
forth.
it's not as good to have, in my opinion anyway, it's not as good to have medium tanks in that kind of situation. You know, so whistlers and Janus and artillery are going to be great here.
Yeah. I remember queuing up stouts and whistlers and making like a few of them, and then just seeing them perform, I'm like, nah, I don't want these units. They're not
Oh,
gonna
you
be there.
didn't want what units?
Stouts and whistlers specifically. I wanted
Oh.
just like 1 or 2 whistlers. I queued up all 4 on repeat, and then like after the first stout came out and I was looking at it fight, I was like, I don't think I want that many stouts here.
Yeah, this right. The stouts, you kind of want the maneuverability, whereas there's not a lot of place to maneuver.
You can't really swoop in and out when you have to go up a steep hill on the way
Right,
out.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, you know, because they can take some damage, like, they're kind of still nice as, like, a buffer, but, like, you know, end of the day, they're not really going to deal any damage. And actually, the same thing with the whistlers. The whistlers, you kind of want to move in and out, and you can't really do that with the steep terrain. So yeah, I can
Yeah.
understand that as well. Yeah, this is a very nice forward position that they have. And I just want to point out really quick, I think at this time, so yellow's on, yeah, yellow's on 20 income. Orange is on 14 income. You're on, well, actually you caught up, you got to 13. I guess it must have been a little bit earlier or something, or maybe you're reclaiming, I don't know. Um,
I think it's the metal makers that I have.
I think you, oh
I've
no,
got like
oh
3
okay,
and they're
yeah, this is
online.
definitely past the time that I meant to point this out, but like, there was a point earlier when they both had around like 15, 16 income, and then you and your ally were both on 8. And it's like, man, this is gonna be
Right.
rough. And that's, I think, was
Yeah.
just mostly because of the extractors they have out here. And I think yellow is a little bit ahead with the converters, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you were going for the geo first, so you got the geo. Now you got the converters to match it, and so now your income's doing.
Green was never very good about controlling his mechs like above him.
Yeah. Oh, that was something
Which,
else I was gonna point out too. Is yeah, there's this mechs, and then there's this one.
yeah, he should retake that hours
He's
ago for
working
sure.
on 50% of his, well, not 50%. He's got 3 out of 5
Yeah,
mexes.
but still, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
He, for 22 OS, he played a quite a good game in my opinion. I was not like this is
Yeah, that is fair.
yeah. Like I have no complaints about my ally here. I just like my own plays, like a one-on
Yeah,
focus.
right. I guess I'm just pointing out like the difference between, you know,
Like 2v2 wise,
yeah,
we're just like behind on metal at the moment.
yeah, for sure.
I think that because I'm getting really efficient trades with shell shockers, that's not
Oh, I meant to put this
the
back up.
worst thing in the world.
Right. Yeah,
But
they're you're
like if I stay behind on metal for a long time, then it's a problem. But if it's for a minute or two where I'm trading really effectively,
right. You
you
can
know,
kind of gain it back, especially if you can get some Rex out of it. You know, because you basically have the better composition. You know, it's a little bit more costly and stuff, but like it's a little bit better in terms of like getting that you know, some value, some free value.
yeah. This is a pretty major part of the game, of the early game here, where
Yeah.
this like heavy laser tower comes up and we fight over it. Like, there's a lot that goes on.
I feel like they don't really have enough here to defend it.
Yeah, we don't lose very much off the comm explosion, and I'm able to move in to secure the wreck pretty easily because of Janus.
Yeah, you got there like ASAP.
And he did a good job of moving his plasma bots away from his comp and like had them,
Hmm.
protecting the arty, and so they were able to help a bit.
Totally.
So I float some metal here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Can you pause?
Oh, yep.
So at this moment, the reason I'm floating metal is because like I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to reclaim it all, and also I don't actually know if I want to go tier 2 or if I want to spend 1,200 metal on tanks. Um,
That's something that I have trouble with sometimes because it's sort of like, it's the question of, can you break this and push all the way through or not? If you can,
yeah,
you could go for it. And if not, then it's like always going to be better to do the tier 2.
invest it instead of
Right.
try to all in it. And I mean, I did decide to do that, but I didn't decide it quickly enough to really like. I could have done it better if I had
Yeah. If you had
you know,
known, you could have like started, preparing for it, sort of thing, I suppose.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I would say to answer that question, I feel like oftentimes I need to look at the terrain. Like when I'm doing these reviews for people, and there's like a similar question. Um, it's sort of like you have to consider, is the terrain somewhere where I can push up? And right here, like there's a bit of a hill here. It's not like drastic, whereas some maps like Ascendancy, there's like a big gigantic hill, and it's like trying to push up it, you're gonna go slower and take extra shots from everything, and then it's like really not a good idea. um, but here it's sort of like it's a small hill. If you're able to get this entire high ground, that's a lot of metal percentage compared to like the
yeah,
bit that they have in the back, and their base is not that far away. And then at the same
yeah.
time,
And I can threaten to like artillery the middle, and I can do a
right,
lot from that.
right, there's actually a lot you could do. Like the only response, or the only thing you have to really worry about, because oftentimes it's like if you do that on a lane map, and you have allies and enemies on both sides of you, and you bulldoze
Yeah,
through, then all of a
getting
sudden you get
collapsed on.
collapsed on, right?
But there's
But
a literal
here,
cliff that prevents him from collapsing on me.
exactly. So there's only really this area here that they can challenge you on.
Yeah,
And if
and then
if
they
they
have to be pushing
do,
uphill into me.
right, and if they do, they're pulling their entire army back here,
Yeah,
which
and
is
then AN
a
can
lot of
punish
difference.
it.
Exactly. So even if
Yeah,
it doesn't do quite as well because they help out, all of a sudden your ally, and Aeon's a good player too. He's definitely come a long ways. Um, but yeah, he would definitely push in here and just take advantage of it. Whereas not all players would. So it's sort of
I,
like thinking about how strong is this player.
yeah. Another, I think, a reason that I sort of swung my decision towards going tier 2 is if I just look at the map here, like at what we were
Mm-hmm.
looking at, they have more units than us, they have more commanders than us, and they kind of can't really push us. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's going to be harder to go for the all-in play because they have more comms and more units on the ground right now, and it's not like they're going to stop producing.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we both, you know, if I keep producing, it's really unlikely that they're going to stop producing. And even if they do, they can probably still hold it because I'm behind on units at this current moment. So it would take like
Yeah.
even if they stopped, it would take me a while to have more, even with the extra metal.
Yeah.
Um,
So, well, I mean, regardless of like all the stuff I said before with the terrain and allies and stuff, like going T2 is always an option. So like it's totally fine to do that. I'm just saying that that's the case to consider
yeah,
for if you are going
if
to push it.
if we had like 5, 10 more plasma bots from dark green right now, I'd
Right.
be more interested in just going tier 1 units and trying to push through here. But
That's a
against
good, yeah, right. That's another thing to consider is like your ally here is not very strong. So like, you trying to push into two players is kind of, it's going to be rough. So like I
Yeah.
think I actually the more that I think about it, the more I realize that I think you did make the correct choice, given the
And
situation.
also, if if say it was Praetoric's commander that died and I reclaimed instead of my allies, then
Hmm.
again it would be like we have two comms, they have one, so the all-in is a lot easier to make happen as well.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Because comms are still strong at this stage of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially, I mean, the only thing you really have to fight the comms is the Janus. It's like artillery's not gonna really cut it.
So I'd said this earlier in the thread, but I go for the tier 2 here, and I
Hmm.
reclaim my lab too soon, so I overflow
Oh,
400 of the metal or 500 of the metal from my lab because I misallocated my build power.
yeah, I missed it unfortunately, but yeah, right. I would say that um,
It's definitely, I know exactly how to fix it, and it's not something I would ever do intentionally. It was a mistake because I was trying to, I was
totally.
microing at the
Well,
time.
you've seen me do that a few times.
Yeah.
It happens.
So, like, those are mistakes that I can identify and easily understand and know how to fix when I watch the replay myself.
Right, totally.
Just like trying to figure out like what things you saw that, like, things that I know I did bad as opposed to things that I don't know that I did bad.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look at this more as like a general picture, more of like, um, strategically and tactfully, like what you could have done better, not like the little tiny, details. Although I'll
I
try
mean,
to
all
point
of it
those out
helps.
as well because, yeah, little details at your level is gonna, you know, it's kind of, like the little details are what make a good player into a great player. Like yesterday I was watching those games with Master Bell and Siegel. Or they're doing some replay analysis, and then they ended up playing a couple games afterwards. And just watching the difference between Bell and Siegel in terms of unit control and stuff, like, and you can see, like, I could totally understand, like, Bell's making all this, this choice and that choice in the moments very quickly, that end up, you know, take, basically getting a free unit here, a free unit there, and just like wins all these battles, like because of it. And it's like kind of crazy, like seeing it side by side of like, okay, here's a player that's pretty good, and then here's a player that's like fantastic. And it's hard to notice unless you're like doing it side by side like that. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I learned a lot from that. Um, he did a video on it too, by the way, if you were interested.
Yeah. I was gonna watch that at some point later, for sure.
Um, but yeah, it is just not terribly much like strategically and tactics wise to talk about here because you have such a like it's such a choky area that it's like there's less to talk about. There's no like you could just like oh do this roundabout move to do this or
Yeah. One thing I did this game, or one thing I know that I could have done better this game, is that I was very focused on just being the South, holding the South, winning the South or not dying in the South because, I've got yellow and orange down here and I need to just not collapse. And like my team won North, but I never really zoomed out and looked at the big picture of
uh
the game very, very often.
yeah, I mean I
Um,
would say that if you did and you do understand what's going on, yeah, I would say your whole plan should basically be try to keep orange and yellow busy so that they cannot
yeah.
defend up here. And obviously even before that you want to make sure you don't die, but like I think yellow and orange, like they're probably not going to push you at this point as much because their allies are not doing so
Hmm.
well. Yeah, I'd say at this point just grab the freaking mechs.
I definitely should have grabbed this max.
And if you can, get the 3.4, but
Yeah. I think the reason I opted to go reclaim with my commander instead of grabbing the mechs is because I thought, like really this should be my allies' mechs.
mhm.
And the 900 metal now in tier 2 units on this like point where they kind of don't really have tier 2 is like I could push my advantage,
Yeah, and
hopefully.
that those bits of metal like would actually make a big difference with that. Um, did your transport die somewhere?
I literally reclaimed it for no reason.
Oh.
I shouldn't have, but
just this walk from this T2 is so annoying.
Yeah, I know, I know.
There's actually a transports widget you can do some stuff with. One of the things, actually, the only reason why I use it is because I can use a transport and have it guard a unit. It could be any unit that you want, and whenever that unit walks like too far from where it is, the transport will pick it up and place it near it. So you could like tell this T2 constructor build these mexes, have the transport guard it, and it'll stop and get picked up, get transported to here, get dropped off, and then he'll start building.
Wow.
it's,
That's like
it's
that
cheating.
sounds like that's yeah. That sounds really convenient, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty convenient. It does mess up sometimes, but you know.
Should have put a hound or two on the high ground like sooner than I did this game. I think would have been really good because he can
Let's
like the
see.
hounds up there can be a real pain in the ass. Like on the hill where the 3.4 is, if I walk a
Oh
hound up
yeah,
there by itself, it can just be like a real nuisance.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean anything with plasma you can get up there is going to be awesome. Yeah, I think it's
Hindsight.
interesting that you went gunslinger here, but it makes sense. It's just you know, I just oftentimes don't see them making that 650 mineral or 50 metal back. I was gonna call it minerals for
They're
some reason.
yeah, StarCraft player.
Yeah.
So they have good line of sight, and blind hounds are really bad. I've managed to lose my Whistler, and I kind of don't really want a radar bot as much because it doesn't have any combat
Okay, I was gonna
ability.
ask you that because I noticed that they do have more line of sight than the hounds, and I was like, oh, is it for the sight? Because now your artillery can actually do some work.
It's the combination of the sight and it generally being good against the units that are here.
Yeah, right. They're decent against bots, right?
They're,
Unfortunately, those bots are on a bit of a hill, so they got a little bit extra range. But
yeah,
um,
I think I'm getting value out of it though. When you factor the line of sight into it as well.
yeah, with the line of sight, maybe. I was actually going to mention about that. So here I notice your artillery don't really do too much when you don't have the line of sight because they have a jammer back here, right?
Hmm.
But what you could do is manually attack.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to turn off the player view to do this, but you know, obviously you wouldn't actually be able to see this, but you can, you know, take them, hit A, and right click to drag, and just
Yeah.
like, you know, do
Just.
different lines everywhere. Just be like annoying, like, oh, I think you could be around here. You know, you better keep microing your
Hmm.
units because I'm gonna shell the shit out of the place.
Hmm.
And
I
I've
know I
when
did.
someone does that against me, I find it super annoying.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you're ever not paying attention, you just get to lose units for fun. It's
Yeah,
not really.
right.
Yeah.
And if
I
they
definitely
do a good
did a
job
few
spread
times
it
do
out,
that.
if they spread it out, then it's, or if you spread it out with the artillery, then it becomes so much harder to dodge because, you know, generally people want to move their entire army together, so they like, you know, select it all and move them back. Well, what if, you know, some of the shots are back here, some are back here, some are over here. You know, it's like all around it. It's like how do you, you know, effectively dodge it? If you try to move back, you know, maybe there, you know, it runs into more shots than if you were to like move to the side or down or
Yeah,
whatever, you
you're
know.
just guessing where he's shot
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I definitely
actually,
need to. I need to give those orders to my artillery more, both the shell shockers and Mausers. Like I oftentimes just fight command them, and I need to give the order them to just shoot volleys when there's jammers especially. Because I could have just gotten damage for free if I had been doing that. What's up? I can't hear you right now. Are you?
oh, my apologies. I apparently muted because I probably coughed or something. But
Oh, no problem.
okay, sorry about that. But yeah, I don't know if you can see on the what's it called on the
The
stream.
circles
Oh, you
for the
can?
AOE, the purple
Yeah.
circles.
Okay. But yeah, that's another widget that, yeah, feels a little cheatery. it's I don't know. I what I end up doing is like testing out a lot of the widgets and like seeing like, oh, do I want this one? Do I want that one? And seeing if
Hmm.
they work for me. But um, yeah, some of them seem kind of cheatery in a way. But yeah, it definitely helps out to know where the circles are. Let's see, what else was I gonna talk about here? Oh, I mean, I missed this too, but there was like there still are some wrecks, but like yeah, there's just like a lot of wrecks that you didn't get for a little while. But then you
Yeah.
eventually got your commander up there to eat it also. Here's another good position to try to keep, or maybe put up a camera or something.
Yeah, that would have been a good spot for camera. The degunning on my two gunslingers there like really took a lot of wind out of my sails.
Yeah, right. You lost your front line spotters for artillery, so yeah. Here I think you make the choice to eat your artillery.
Yeah, because I just wanted to like kind of upgrade them into hounds.
Totally. Yeah, I mean I see players all the time just like end up suiciding those units. And it's like no, you can use them later on, or you can eat them. Obviously
Yeah, spend
artillery
that
are not
metal
going to
on
have the
better
best,
units.
but right, you might as well eat them if there are things like artillery. 'Cause yeah,
Well,
artillery is not
hounds
going to
of
scale. Whereas like if it was a bunch of medium tanks, I'd say well maybe the medium tanks can still have value because they can soak so much damage.
yeah. I just thinking like with Sheldons in play, like the Shell Shocker is almost no value as a unit. And I have no reason to
Exactly.
keep them.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially against Sheldons. Yeah. So you're just getting a bunch of hounds. Your allies are still well. Your allies had to back out a bit, but still doing
Yeah.
all right. You're keeping them off the 3.4, so that's important. I wish you had grabbed that.
Yep. I should have grabbed that mech 20 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Even if it's supposed to be my allies, if he's not taking it, like I should just take it.
Right.
It's a good
Yeah.
spot for
Well.
him to put a Twilight, maybe, if
Yeah.
he's
Well,
worried about it dying.
so what I have done in the past, and I haven't been doing it recently, because I just haven't had the opportunity. But um, like if there's a mech that isn't taken, I'll just take it. Like it can be like next to like it can be my allies like directly next to me, and he's like on his way to come grab it from like and he's just like a ways back, and he's grabbing like mechs on the way. Like say it's an early game. I'll grab that mech for myself if there's no other mechs for me to grab, and then when he gets there, I'll just give it to him. It's
Yeah,
like, well, I get to use it right now and make a little bit off of it, but I'll still give it to you when you're about to get it. Or
it makes sense.
in this
Yeah.
case, like, yeah, I would just grab it and then um, just not give it to him unless he asks for it.
I definitely, like, it's just really bad of me to not cap that max is, like, silly.
Yeah. Yeah, especially yeah. So I mean, especially on this kind of map, because again, you only have the 3 mechs back here. You have this mechs, and that's it. You have 4 mechs. So a 5th one is a lot of extra metal.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even if it isn't a T2, obviously it's not going to be as powerful. Um, and if you're worried about losing it, like you could just put down a Twilight.
Hmm.
I love Twilights.
They're really good, yeah. Um, I was definitely... I could have been more active. Could have had a hound go onto that high ground a lot sooner than now. Could have taken that max. There's
Mhm.
definitely some stuff.
Yeah, and I,
This ends up
you're
being a real problem for them.
yeah. Well, and I like that you're like finding all these details. These are all things that a lot of people would miss. So like, I'm glad that you're seeing these things. You might not be doing it as soon as like maybe you could have, but like you're seeing it, and now you can maybe think about that for the next time. You can adapt. Try to work it into your head and create a behavior of like, oh yeah, check for that, check for this. Maybe there's something here I can do. Um, But you're already on
Yeah.
the first step of that, so that's fantastic. I was doing a review a little bit ago that's, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I see that you're checking or knowing about that, these other players that are just below you just have no idea about. So I'm just glad to see it. Um, One of the things that I don't know, do you have like problems with remembering and like working stuff into behavior?
Um.
I mean, what I mean is like even though you know about this now, are you going to remember it for later, type of thing?
Uh. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's difficult. Like there'll like the knowledge will be there, but it's just like the just like I don't think about it quickly enough in the game, but it just
Hmm.
needs more experience and more reinforcement
Yeah.
type of thing.
So one of the things that I used to do back in my StarCraft 2 days,
Can
I'll
we
just
pause real
pause.
quick?
Yeah. Um, is I would before a game, I'd repeat to myself, um, the thing that I wanted to remember to do, to like change about myself. For example, like
Right.
remembering to build a supply depot or something. And just like before the game, just put it in my head, like I'm not going to forget a depot. I'm not going to forget a depot.
Yeah.
And just like throughout the game, try to do that through the game too. Obviously, you're busy with other stuff, but like eventually it'll be in your head enough that during the game it'll start popping in of like, oh, I need to remember to do that. Oh, I need to remember to do that.
Yeah.
And I eventually trained myself to look at, it wasn't like just the depot thing. It was like, look, I want to get in my head that I'm going to do these three things constantly. And that was like check the mini map, check my money, check my base, look back at my army. And just like uh, you know, got that in my head, the cycle of checking all these things.
And then
And
eventually it becomes muscle memory.
yeah, right, exactly. It becomes muscle memory, and it's like, oh, hey, like I don't even have to think about this anymore. I'm just doing it. And it was
Yeah.
great, like I'm looking at the min map. Oh, there's an enemy. Oh, my money's good. I can build this now. Like now I can come back to my army and worry about this one enemy. Like fuck, that's like crazy.
That's one thing Kaldra got me to do is to like stop floating metal, and just tell myself actively to stop floating metal for the first just keep doing that. And as I say that, I'm floating 3,000 metal at the current time in the review, but I think it's because I had just reclaimed my lab.
Yeah. So you just ate
It's
you
not like I
ate your
floated.
lab. You ate
Oh
the
wait, no, my
commander.
lab is still here. What did I
Oh, you're
eat?
talking. Oh,
Where
I thought
does
I was
this
talking
metal
about
come from?
from.
I'm so confused now. Maybe I ate a bunch of Rex or something.
It
I guess you can't
had to have
rewind,
been.
but
I wish I could.
oh, you know what? I think why I'm floating all this metal right now is because I just lost all my build power to that bombing run. I wanted to talk about that bombing run because
Oh
that
yeah.
could have been so much worse for me,
Hmm.
and I realized that obviously. And like, do you think it's? I think that I should have had one tier 2 AA bot
Yes.
built by this point because it would
Oh,
have done a
bots.
lot for me.
Mm,
Like an archangel, because I have the lab up, and then like I could have. It's it's not a flak, but it also doesn't require a tier 2 constructor being there to do that to build the flak.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, if your constructor's busy, then like yeah, the archangel. I would say maybe a couple of them. Obviously,
Yeah,
this ferret's. When I was first watching this, I didn't see the ferret, so I was like, oh shit, he's fucked. But no, you
yeah.
had a ferret and you killed them all off, and they're only T1, so it
The
was fine.
ferret was good for the first 10-15 minutes of the game,
Hmm.
but that's something that I sort of got complacent on. Is like I have a ferret, I'm good, but it's like in this stage of the game, one ferret isn't really good. Like as if there were some tier
Right,
2 bombers there, and like
right,
if those bombers had been targeted better, like if they had a scout in front of them instead of behind them, they could have killed my prude, they could have killed my tier 2 converter, and they could have done a lot of damage to me if
right.
I
Yeah, I
because I
mean,
just had
all
the one
all
ferret.
all they'd have to do is target the ferret, and then you're completely lost this entire thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's actually something else that I wanted to go over. I was going to go over it more at the ends, but it kind of ties into what we're just talking about with the trying to put something in your head to remember to do it during the game. Um, so along with like, stuff like that, you can also, remember to do things like zoom out. Like, okay, what's big picture? Like add that to the list of things that you check, with in your head periodically. Like, oh, I need to zoom out. Okay, let's zoom out. All right, battle. Okay, zoom
Yeah.
out. All right, and do that so that you have a sense of things. Or just like, in StarCraft 2 it would be like checking the mini map. But here you have you can get a better idea from just zooming out instead. But um, one of the things I was going to point out is you see a lot of air units at some point. You just see like a cloud, right? You expect that to be fighters, and of course they're fighters. Um, but you can also, I mean, I would say a lot of air players end up just getting fighters, and that feels really strange to me. But um, if you see a bunch of air, they're pretty committed, and they're probably going to be doing bombers, or at least they should do bombers at some point.
They can do bombers,
Right,
so
exactly. They can do bombers, so it's sort of like you need to think about that and adjust. And the adjustment in this case, would be, um, just adding on a little bit more anti-air. And
yeah.
you got super lucky with it being tier 1 bombers and stuff, but like, yeah, it could have been way worse.
Had I been zooming out more, I would have seen all those fast-moving pink blips and been like,
Hmm.
"Oh gosh, yeah, that's Polygon with a lot of fast-moving blips.
Right,
I'm
I was gonna
probably
say like
at risk of getting bombed."
you mentioned earlier like, oh, you're up against Screwish, so you adapted your play a little bit, or like you made a choice because of it. Well, you're up against a Poly too, and he only goes air, and he loves doing bombing runs. So like, you know
Yeah.
what to prepare for in a way.
I'd say he does more than just go air, but he does like to bomb. He
Yeah,
very regularly does it.
right.
That's the thing about this game, this small community and player. You see the players, you know what
Yeah,
they
you
like
get
to
to know
do.
everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm floating metal here because I lost all my build power to that
Hmm.
bombing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't even realize that when I was looking at it earlier. But yeah, it's unfortunate. You need to build that back up ASAP.
Yeah. So the reason that I'm not is because I walked my tier 1 constructor all the way up to Narnia to go take the mechs or something.
Oh, he's finally you finally went over here. Or no, you went to what?
I went to build a construction turret because I was gonna build shit over here, but then I had
I
other shit to
see.
do.
I gotcha. And also, your ally finally got the mechs.
Yay! We did it, Reddit.
um,
Uh,
but yeah, so you're adding on that anti-air. I would say even like since the bombing was just spent, there's a good chance that he's probably not going to bomb you for a minute, and so you could probably, get some more build power or something. Um,
yeah. I mean, the tier 2 constructor can't build power.
right? Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking. I don't know why I
I
was thinking it could, but like, yeah. I mean,
I
if
think
you,
I alt queued some butlers into my bot lab queue.
no, you got one.
Nope. I have the butler on repeat. I like to
Okay.
have one butler in my repeat
Huh.
queue to slowly expand my build power.
Okay, fair enough. Oh yeah, your T1 got back here. Yeah, and I mean, it's not like you have a ton of income, so like, you know, you don't really need that much build power, so it's kind of fine that you're doing it kind of slowly. Because you're doing all this other stuff, like building this
Building a lot
anti-air.
of shit at once.
Yeah. I mean, you got
It
the
takes
metal
me
for it, so it's not that big a deal.
it takes me forever to complete this EMP launcher because I'm just building so much shit at once, and
Yeah, what
I
is
mean,
even build? Oh, it's just this one tower building it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you're repairing though. I'd say that's probably a little bit
What I
more
should have
important.
done is I should have walked my hounds over to the con turret that I built out in Narnia for no reason and had it repair them. I walked them over there and then I walk back. When I watched the replay back the first time, I was like, oh, I could have just walked them over there and left them there to get repaired.
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't even know that you built this turret up
Hindsight.
here. It's hard to tell like what is yours and what is, your
Yeah,
allies.
because we're like the same color, yeah.
I wanted to ask you if the EMP launcher was a response to the service.
Um, yeah, I believe it was.
Okay. Because yeah,
It,
like
like,
it's. Go
it's a
ahead.
good idea in general here, I believe,
Hmm.
because, if, like, oh shit, there's 5 Shivas, and I can, like, EMP launcher them, but
Look
it's
at the
also
range of
good
it.
against
It
the
can go all the way
Cerberus.
the heck out here. So like, yeah,
Yeah,
not
it's like,
bad.
it's kind of just, on a small map like Nuclear Winter, it's kind of just a good-ass building to have.
Yeah, for sure.
But specifically, yeah, my allies' bombers flew over and spotted the Cerberus being built, and I went, "Oh shit!" and threw down the EMP launcher.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I would maybe argue. I mean, I like the fact that the EMP launcher is like on this slope, so it's like hard for units to actually see it. They'd have to like actually get to this like point here, which you're
Mm-hmm.
heavily guarding obviously, so they can't really see it. So that's great. Um, but I would
Could
actually
have been
say,
further up.
in terms of range, I would maybe consider putting it over here.
Yeah,
That way
I
it can go
agree.
further out here. Whoops, that's not a circle. That'd be, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit better. I mean, obviously, like, you know, your main thing is the Cerberus, so like, yeah,
Pretty sure I only shot the Cerberus with the EMP
yeah,
launcher.
yeah, and I like the response. I would say, like, so we're getting to the point when you start that T3 pretty soon, which I would say, well, actually, we can keep it on pause, I guess. I would say you definitely don't have the metal quite ready for it, and also like because you're going to be getting units out of a T3 so slowly with your income, it's going to take a long time for you to actually have enough to push this. So you're going to have to worry about the Cerberus and worry about like anything they have here for a long time, um, because of that choice. And
Yeah, I
I
know
would,
you can support tier 3 off of like about 100 metal income. Like
yeah, that's a little bit more ideal, right?
I had, and I was like, okay, I think I'm like 80 or 90, but
Mm,
my reasoning for the tier 3, and I'm not gonna say that it's good, but I just want to let you know what I'm thinking,
mm-hmm.
is that this terrain, one Vanguard and one Razorback are gonna be, they're just gonna slaughter everything that's tier 2 here, basically. So it might be worth it.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just yeah, it's just going to be a while to actually get those units out.
Mm-hmm.
So it does get a little rough. I mean, I guess like I completely understand that
I
logic.
should have
That actually makes a lot of sense.
I
I
should have done it like a little bit later and just scaled my eco a little bit more before I'd done it, I think, in hindsight.
yeah, I would agree with that. Like given the
It's like
situation,
a
like they're banking on this Cerberus. I mean, you don't really
mm-hmm.
know too much of what's here. I mean, you could send your ghosts up to like kind of see what's going on. Actually, you got one here, or is that your?
That's my allies. So
Oh,
I
nice, got a
actually,
ghost.
one thing I did really bad this game is I had Ghost in my queue,
Hmm.
but I think I never touched it. I never microed my spy bot ever. This game it was really bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say like one of the things that I think you could do better overall is just gaining that intel. Obviously you got
Mm-hmm.
this hill, you got a jammer, like it's hard to see stuff up here. But like, finding a way to see stuff up there is really, really key in my opinion. Um, and your radar's up, or you had a radar up here. I don't know if it died in the bombing or something, but you should definitely replace that now that I see that you don't have it. Um, but yeah, the radar you had up there, like at least spotted up to here, which is really nice. Um, but yeah, just having
Yeah.
something to give line of sight so that you can actually see over the hill if there's nothing there. Um,
Yeah.
but I'd say given the situation, yeah, um, and to me, it's actually fine. Just get rid to get rid of the lab and just start like an APHIS or something. Get that APHIS, get
Mm-hmm.
your converters, and then get T3. So you can either do that, or what I end up doing, um, which I find in a lot of situations might not be the best, but I would say in this situation is probably really good, is just to mass up the T2, and instead of getting the EMP launcher, using ghosts to do it. Now, obviously, you don't really
Right.
know what's up here, but if you had checked, uh, you know that they really don't have much.
Yeah, I could have totally just used my EMP launcher, EMP'd the Scorpion and the Serb, and then just pushed with like 40 hounds and killed them,
Exactly.
probably. Which, if I microed my spy bot, I would have known that. But
Yeah,
um,
so I would actually say that the spybot thing is probably one of the bigger deals. It's just like not getting
yeah,
that intel.
it's definitely bad.
Because I mean, you're making all these choices, and I would say, given what you know, they're great choices. You know,
There's a
you're
lot of things
definitely putting a lot of thought behind everything that you're doing.
I could have known more very easily. I had the spy bot, I just didn't use it. I neglected it. It's bad.
Yeah, that's a little unfortunate, but I'd say, yeah. I mean, but yeah, given the information that you have, you know, although kind of limited, you still make good choices with it. You know, you told me about like why you're getting the, you know, the T3 here, you know, and
So
stuff, and it all makes sense to me. That actually is a good call.
my
It's
tier
not
2
necessarily
constructor
how
is
I
on
would
wait.
play, but it does make sense.
I have my gantry queued, but my constructor's on wait, and I think I'm waiting for the next fusion and converter to finish before I actually start it.
Hmm. There's a widget for that too, by the way.
Of course there is.
There's a widget where like you have a constructor, you hit some keys, or no, I'm sorry, you select a constructor, you hover your mouse over something that's being built, and you hit a key, and that constructor will wait until it's done.
Nice.
So you don't have to like go back and worry about remembering
Hmm.
to undo it. I noticed you do that later with your T3 lab. Yeah.
And again, I'm not looking at any of that shit up there at all.
Yeah. I'd say that's probably one of the more defining things, you know, between um, you know, a really good player and a great player. It's just that map awareness of like what is going on outside, because
Yeah.
even though it's like, you know, what blue is doing and what teal is doing like doesn't really affect you whatsoever, it affects purple, and purple being in this position affects you. Because like, for example, earlier, you know, like I was talking about like, you know, do you tier up to T2 or do you push forward? Well, where purple is, um, should be a big factor in that, because you know his opponent was here, and so if you push forward, it's hard for your opponent, or for this guy here to come
Yeah.
back to help defend, right? So like just having that map awareness can be like a huge deal in you know, part of the decision making process.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
Big
I would
thing
try
big
to get in
things
the
I'm
habit of stuff like that.
Big things that I think I need to try to add to my gameplay are zooming out more,
Hmm.
being more active with my units, and being more active about like scouting and getting information.
Yeah, and those, you know, it might be hard to like remember to do some of that stuff, but like it's not like it's very APM intensive or anything like that. It's just like a matter of remembering to do it.
Yeah. It's a little bit of like, yeah, it's the remembering to do it and the attention of doing it.
Yeah, right. And so it's, you know, it's nothing too crazy, right? It's just like minor things. But like, yeah, these minor things add up, and then, you know, you end up making decisions based on information you don't have, or, you know, or because you don't have information.
Hmm.
Yeah, allies are doing some stuff. Um, what is Orange even doing at this point?
I think he's probably building Aphis or something. Oh, I think he's...
I think, yeah, he's been supporting mid a bit. He's got these mammoths up here. Gotta do what she's gotta do. But yeah, that's another thing about having that, you know, if you look around the map and you see like, oh, there's orange units all the way the heck up here, you can also see like, oh, they're moving very slowly. You know, they're a big, strong unit. Or actually, in this case, you can actually even see one. You know, then you know that he invested a bunch of money, you know, into that location, or, you know, into helping out up there. So you know that there's probably less stuff here. You know, and then it to me it gives more reinforcements of like, oh, I should, you know, um, you know, put a spy
I
bot
should
up
pressure
there,
them.
and well, I should first of all just like get a spy bot out there just to see, you know, like it's a good reminder for me, I guess, if I see my opponent somewhere else, to go look around. Oops.
Yeah. Okay, so my gantry started now.
Yeah.
And I run out of metal like halfway through.
Yep.
So I'm pretty much building at 76 metal at a time.
Yeah, is anything else being built? No.
I don't think so.
That's good. Yeah, all this time you gotta wait for that, and then you gotta wait for the units, and meanwhile,
This Juno really scares me because my gantry's not done, and I'm like
yeah.
worried about what's the follow up when they're gonna come in Juno, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all a symptom of just not having that information.
Yeah. Like this is pretty good for them, obviously. Like they're hitting me with arbiters. Their Cerberus can just free fire on
Yeah.
everything in front of the rattlesnake. I honestly thought that the Cerberus could range my Prude.
Ah, yeah.
That would be really silly map design though, when I think about it more clearly. But in the game, I'm like, I don't know how far that thing can shoot. I'm terrified.
Right. Yeah, and there's basically no way to know.
Alright, there goes my EMP
There's like
launcher.
here, you have an EMP.
Cut that shit out.
I mean, you got it. You know, it works. You got the job done.
I'm really happy with my ally having the spy bots. It really helped
Yeah,
me and made life a
totally.
lot easier. Because I just let my rattlesnake, you know,
Yeah.
go crazy on him.
Yeah, I'm beginning to like spy bots more and more and more the more I use them.
Oh, they're like one of the best units in the game for sure.
Yeah.
The Cerberus, man. It's just fucking...
It's so ridiculous.
That's such a good piece of pork.
Yeah.
I basically have it stunned for like half of the rest of the game. So I built an anti-nuke on my forward position, but I didn't build an anti-nuke in my like back eco base because I kind of assumed that my like quote-unquote eco player was gonna build anti-nuke, and then we both threw it down at the same time, which is kind of like
I love
goofy.
when that happens. It's just like, what the fuck? We're both like, oh, I thought you were gonna get it. And then
Well,
we
if
both
they
end
try
up
to go
getting
for
it
an
at the
O,
same time.
it'll help us in 15 minutes because if they try to go for an you know, a
Right.
7 nuke over nuke, then we have 2. But and like anti-nukes are expensive, but they're not that expensive. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
So I ping my ally to move his spy bots forward so my Vanguard can shoot.
Yeah, I totally thought that these were your spy bots. Yeah, when he started EMPing the army, I was like, well, you know, why would you EMP and not do anything with it, type of thing. But it makes sense if it's not you.
Oh, I did this. I did some really good attack ground micro against this fiend ball. You see, I actually click to lead the shot manually.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
so they get
nice.
some really nice EMPs here, but they miss my Razorback, so they can't do anything.
Yep.
That Razorback being done is really big for me. I think if I don't have that, I'm a little bit scared of this.
Yeah. Okay, so you got a second one coming, Vanguard. Don't you have another Vanguard somewhere? Oh no, he's right here.
Yeah. So what I did is I queued up Vanguard, Razorback, Razorback, Vanguard, and then I was gonna build another fusion or something after that.
Yeah, I mean, I would even say like after you EMP here, like your ally had some spy bots here, so you kind of know what's around, and know that he's not trying to position forward. You know that he's back here more, right? So you could actually probably get this Vanguard over here shooting the Cerberus.
I think that's what ends up going on, is I have like one kind of controlling the hill and then one on the southern end of things.
I see.
Pause. I actually talked to Monkey about this.
Hmm.
Monkey pings because he wants to move in here with this gaggle of Razorbacks, and he wants to know, are there any comms here? And I saw it, but I didn't communicate to him that we haven't killed either of their comms, and I should have, because like, and Monkey and I actually talked about this after the game. He's, you know, he's trying to
like pissed
break
off.
this open. He wasn't pissed, but he was just like, you know,
Like,
he knows
yo.
he knows what happens, you know, when you move a bunch of tier 3 through a narrow choke and you don't know if there's comms and there's a jammer there. But at the same time, I
Yeah.
was playing the lane. I saw his ping question mark, and I should have said we didn't kill comms, but I just
Hilarious.
didn't do it. I didn't
It
say
was
we
like
didn't kill them.
right before the fact too.
Yeah. If I had a little, if he was a little bit farther away when he asked it, it might have been easier. Or if we were in voice chat, I would have said it. But
Hmm.
and it's all good because he just decided to go for it, and that's kind of on him. But it's like that's
Right, I
something
was
I
gonna
can do
say
is I
that
can
that's not
communicate.
a ton of warning. Well, I guess
Yeah.
it was
It's like
20
20. It's
seconds.
20 seconds, but if I had 40, I might have had more opportunity to notice.
Yeah.
It's
It's two.
yeah.
No, that one just gets killed. 3-4. Oof.
It's a lot of Razorbacks dead for.
Yeah. Communication's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And also sometimes like it's like you're busy doing stuff and you read the message finally and then you're like, what is he talking about? And then you see what he's actually doing and like, oh, and then it's like too late at that
Said
point.
thanks for answering.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we talked about it after the game. It was cool.
Nice. But man, it's like it's just taking so long to actually get those units out.
Why do I have 5,000 metal in storage right now? What am I doing?
Because this is paused, I think, or not built.
Yeah, I think I didn't queue up my eco expansion fast enough. Oh no, it's
Yeah.
because I just reclaimed my fusion because I was going to put the metal into Aphis. That's why.
Oh, wait.
Because I went 2 basic fusions and I reclaimed 1 basic fusion to build Aphis. That actually makes sense. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Could
Yeah,
have
I
gone
mean, I would even
with more
say
build
like
power.
eat this eventually, if you need it for the Aphis.
Well, a fusion is half the metal up front, and then I still have enough metal income that I basically just finish it off the fusion.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, just I don't know, just to me like, I guess I've gotten it into my head where it's like if you have an idle lab, you better freaking eat it and build a fusion or something like.
Yeah, the main thing for me with not eating the gantry is that I don't have a ton of build power to rebuild it.
Right.
So I'd rather do the and then like eating the fusion is easier and it's still pretty efficient.
Hmm.
And I like the next thing I want to build is more tier 3, so it's only going to be idle for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was
But I get what you're saying. I do like to eat my labs.
Yeah,
I don't know why I started
I'm
this.
thinking of it, and it's not doesn't really make sense here either because like you don't have that much metal storage either.
Okay, I'm glad I actually canceled that, because that would have been really goofy of me to
I don't
try to
even
build that while I'm
remember.
building an Aphis.
Yeah, so it's like 8,000. Yeah, so you'd have to get more storage to even eat that. So like, it's probably not worth the time considering what you were saying.
It's also a hard lab to build. Like
Yeah.
it's really, slow to build and expensive.
Right. Oh man. I guess so. I just keep looking at this and I'm like, okay, how many EMPs, is it gonna keep EMPing it with? It's like, to me, it could have just been taken out. Is all. A bit
Maybe,
sooner.
yeah. But I mean, when it's basically EMP'd all the time, it is pretty much effectively like neutralized.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just saying like you could set up more of a
I could just kill it,
yeah. You could
probably.
like if you killed it, it makes him feel more insecure. Less.
Yeah.
Um, he's gonna come out here less, or if he does come out there,
Mhm.
you can maybe pressure up here now after it's gone. But again, because you decided to do T3 and they took so long to build, and now that you have them, they're your only defense and stuff while you get your Aphis. So your push potential this entire time has basically been zero. Which isn't necessarily bad. I'm just saying, um, I think it would have been, it's just going back to that whole like, getting tier more tier 2 units out and stuff, and using those, to push and whatnot, I think would have
Mm,
been a
yeah.
slightly better decision here.
Part of it is the terrain, part of it is the Cerberus, and part of it is not having the information
Yeah,
and not
right.
being not being zoomed out enough to know that Screwish is holding mid, not getting the information to know they don't have very much there,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
those are things that I need to work on in my play. But another part of it is the terrain is hard to push, and
Hmm.
I'm thinking like, okay, I don't have a vehicle constructor at all ever this entire game, so my only option is like tier 2 bots,
Hmm.
and I don't want to push this terrain with snipers because the hill negates their range, and I
Right.
don't really want to. So it would have been like my option is like Hound Welder, and it's like this late into the game, I don't think that's good enough.
What about spam?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Spam with like Hound spam
Exactly.
could have been
That's
good.
what I would have thought of. Yeah.
Yeah, Hound spam with like 3 fat boys as well could have
Hmm.
been good. Well, it's fat boys with spam is kind of troll, but
Yeah.
Fat Boys actually, I didn't think of Fat Boys. Fat Boys could have been really good this game because I could put a Fat Boy on the 3.4 mechs, and then
Hell
that's just
yeah.
a fucking bastard. Um, but I just didn't think of it in the game.
Hmm. Yeah, one of the things that I've been trying to do more in my game is like if I do a transition from like bots to vehicles, I'll try to keep at least one constructor of both. That
Yeah.
way I have the decision of like, oh, I can do vehicles or I could do bots.
Well, I think tier 2 vehicles wouldn't have been that great here. The only tier
No,
2 vehicle
not
that
really.
I'd be really excited to build in this position would be an ambassador.
Yep, that was my thought. Is because I was thinking about that earlier when I was looking at the when I was taking notes. I was like, yeah, I mean, it would be nice to have like an arbiter or an ambassador or something, but like, I don't know. Like, is building that lab in particular like worth that? And it's like, well, probably not.
Yeah, I forgot about Fat Boys because obviously like Fat
Hmm.
Boys are kind of bad most of the time, but I think in this area, this terrain, this game, they could have been quite good.
Yeah.
Because they're good against Sheldons actually. If they
Hmm.
ever land a hit, the whole Sheldon ball dies.
Right.
So
Well, yeah, and again, the terrain because like stuff's gonna be moving slower because of the hills, and then
yeah.
because it's so choky, there's less area for them to run away from the balls of the AOE balls.
hmm
Yeah,
And
they can do quite well.
I've used Fat Boys before, but I just didn't think of it this game, and I should have. But
Yeah,
yeah.
would have been a good choice. But yeah, I mean, you really don't have that many options, right? Like you were saying.
Spy
Um,
bots are always good. Welders are always
Recluse
decent.
isn't too bad, but like, I mean, given that you're on the very bottom of the mountain, I would say
hmm
not as useful. Like, it'd be nice if, like,
Yeah,
for
my ally
example,
made some at some point.
yeah, if Ayan wanted to push down here more, he could get some spiders and just go, this way and just say fuck the terrain. um,
For sure.
but I mean, obviously, that's not something you have to do or anything. I just, or for him to have to do. But yeah, I mean, otherwise you don't really have much choice. Like you could try some like weird bomb cheese, which I think is quite fun, but I've never actually successfully done it against a person. Um, what I'm I guess talking about is like you get a like T2 transports, and then you get some tumbleweeds. And the tumbleweeds are really cheap, so like it's really not that expensive, right? But you get
yeah.
like a bunch of transports, load up some tumbleweeds, and you get some other aircraft or other transports to just like absorb damage, right? So you put those in front, you got your transports behind, and you send your transports into their base to unload just randomly across their base.
Yeah.
And they just explode and like destroy everything. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
Um, but you thinking about stuff like that, or you can do like the beamer cheese, or I don't know. It's like there's always
So
something.
this game,
Hmm.
if we look at my base, I would just I'm because like this is something that I was curious about. Like I want kind of your perspective on is like look at
Sure.
my energy income,
Hmm.
and I don't remember how much I have. It's like 7,000 or something,
Here it's
6,000.
5.
Okay, and then how much does Praetoric have, and how much does Screwish have? Because I think Praetoric and Screwish are like players that are kind of around my level.
Hmm. So Pretoric, I guess just to talk about the income in general, it's He has 70 metal income and 4.2 thousand energy.
Okay.
And
Just like kind of
Screwish,
similar to me.
similar, a little bit lower in terms of energy. I think you have, or you do have more metal income now that you have the Aphis up. And then Screwish, well, Screwish
Well,
is
he's
reclaiming
obviously
something.
reclaiming something. Just look at his mexes and converters. It's easy enough to.
Yeah, I
Oh, so
mean,
Screwish has all the mexes.
yeah. So I mean, he's got 2 Aphis done.
Yeah.
He's got 7,000. So I mean, he's doing okay here. Sure. Um, yeah, how many converters? It's like just 7 converters to your 6.
Right.
So he probably needs to add on some converters. No? Huh. I don't know. I guess not. Um, but yeah, I mean and it's hard to make that comparison too because it's sort of like what else has been going on in the game. You've, for example, you've dealt with an ally that's not as strong as they are, so you got to put up a little bit, put up a few more units or whatever. You're not ecoing quite as hard, and you got
To be
Screwish
fair,
that's also
Screwish has
helping
been
here.
having to do a lot
Right.
to help his team. However, I think Screwish is getting a lot more reclaim than I am because
Yes.
the fight is on his side of the map.
Exactly.
And we could see all his resbots, right? So it makes a bit more sense for him to have the metal for the the Aphis kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm just
Right.
that's
I
just like
I just like to
context of the
point that
game.
out because yeah, context does matter. Like it's not just a
Yeah.
simple like, oh, I have more or better or it's not about the numbers of income necessarily. And I think a lot of people like like to put everything into numbers and it's like that does not tell like 10% of the story. There's
Yeah, I
like
mean
so much more to it.
it's part of it, but
Right.
yeah.
So at
And the
this
game's
point, I
basically over.
assume that you know that your allies are doing well enough at this point, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, it's sort of like you don't necessarily need to do anything. It's just like
So a lot of what informed my decisions to keep going up to tier 3 and upgrade my fusion to the Aphis and make more Vanguard and like do that stuff is that I'm like, okay, they're under pressure. They're gonna lose middle if the game just stays as it is. So I'm stable and I'm in the lane against their strongest players. So the best thing I think I can do is to make sure that, I don't get like completely and utterly outscaled by Scrooge and Praetoric, and make sure that I'm not in a position to die to them. Because my team is winning, so I want to be like a stable anchor and like an insurance where I'm scaling to make sure that we're not going to lose to, 5 jugs coming out of nowhere that like, and we don't even have
yeah.
just.
I'd say that's certainly a good way to look at it. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about stuff like that.
But I should have pressured them more because then it prevents like it keeps them honest and I could be more active while I'm doing that maybe. But
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like there's like always more than one angle to look at something like that. It's like you tech up or you eco up harder so that orange and brown, if they are ecoing, you're staying on par with them, and it's fine. Or they are helping middle, and instead you want to you know uh, put pressure on them so that they can't help in middle. It's like different ways to look at it, and I think just doing that whole zoom out thing and just taking a look at what's going on will help you make that kind of decision. And I think it's great that you're like I don't have to point this out to you. Like I thought that was something that I was gonna have to point out to you, but like you totally get it. Like there's both sides of that. Of like you got to kind of consider both of those things. And I'm
yeah.
sure there's probably other ways to look at it too, but like given the situation, I think those are the main two there. But yeah, I mean it is pretty much over. Your
I think they
allies
just
even going
resign now.
snipers. Yep.
I remember I'm like, you know how annoying that Cerberus was? Well, what if I resurrected it?
Right.
But then they just resign. Like the game ends in the next 30 seconds or something.
Here comes your resbots.
Yeah. The game's like over. It's unwinnable. Like Damus resigned like 10 minutes ago because he like died to.
Hmm.
Because he was like the front liner in mid, and he got
Oof.
Janist by Monkey. Monkey played a really good game.
Yeah, Monkey's a solid player. I haven't really seen him play that much, but
He's been
from what I
playing
can tell.
more recently, and he's gotten pretty good. I like playing with Monkey. He's like communicates well. He's like good team player, and like I don't know, he's a cool guy.
I think he's been around for a while.
Yeah, definitely an established player.
Well, do you have anything else you want to, I guess, ask or question, or I don't know.
No, I mean I think we kind of went over like most of the thoughts that I had about the game. I was kind of, I guess my thought is like, what I guess like we kind of talked about what do I need to work on, but like what is like the stuff that I didn't notice or didn't bring up or like
I mean,
going
you
over
pretty
your notes
much
and
like
stuff.
brought up a lot of the stuff that I was going to. I can check my notes to see if there's anything else, because it's very possible I'm forgetting something. Talked about that and that. Yeah, we talked about your allies max. uh, yeah, I guess just to point out really quickly that there was that time, because I don't know if I said this or not, but there was that time when like you were kind of pushing forward with your arties and stuff, and then you realize that your arties are not getting as much value, so you just like return them back home and eat them. I thought that was really good. I'm not sure if we talked about that.
I think we did talk about that.
Oh,
Like
okay.
literally, my thought was this medal in Artie is just worth more at this stage in the game when that medal is in
Oh yeah,
Hounds.
we did talk about that. Shit, sorry. Um,
No, that's good. That's something that I think that a lot of players need to realize is that you can just reclaim your units and then put the metal into better units, especially when you're in early tier 2. Like if a hound is just better than a whistler and it does basically the
right.
same thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can just reclaim 2 whistlers and you instantly have the metal for a hound. Like um so I don't know if you're going to post that publicly, but like that's something that I think a lot of players in like the 30 TS range should add to their game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, well, and it's so common, like below that too, where like there's like a, they'll keep their T1 lab, and it's like you're not even using it. Just eat it. You can rebuild it if you want it.
Yeah.
Just like you don't need it right now. Use the metal.
Yeah, the only thing that a lab does is give you a license to, make the units that the lab does. But you
Right.
can just get it back. It's 600 metal. But then like that 600 metal in economic structures,
Hmm.
you'll get that metal back faster. It's like I
Yep.
just reclaim that shit, dog.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like,
and it's like people realize that, eventually with like the T1 lab, and they get the T2 lab, but then
but it'll,
they don't think to themselves like, oh, I could eat the lab after I get the builder to get the mechs
mhm,
faster and then rebuild the lab.
yeah.
It's like shit like that. Like, and also just
Well,
like, like I'm more at a point now where it's like, I'm trying to keep my options as open as possible and just like, like, oh, I think a bombing run would be good right now. Okay, let's get some like, T1 bombers, bomb, sell the lab, but have a construction, aircraft, so that if I want to later, I can build a T2.
get yourself
Because
into EMP bombers or whatever.
yeah, like, get T2 air later if I, just like keep switching it up into like all these different things. Um, I think that's just like a really kind of fun
Hmm.
way to play. Um,
I think the opportunity cost of adding one vehicle constructor from my vehicle lab would have been pretty low, but
yeah.
it was pretty knife edge for a while there. So I think that like I was really scared to take lab time off of building units because of how much more they had than
Hmm.
us. Because they had gotten the reclaim and because they had gotten like
Yeah, given the
grunts into my
situation we're in,
allies
that
base.
totally makes sense because like when you start vehicles like that, like you're going to be, well, you're starting vehicles and you're behind on the mechs and stuff. So like you're
Hmm.
gonna have less units. So like, spending that time to build a constructor is like kind of a big deal. So like that
Hmm.
makes sense.
And I transported my bot constructor to the front, so everything that I
Hmm.
would need a constructor to build, I had the bot constructor to build. Plus, I'm playing on that hill, so a
Hmm.
vehicle constructor is going to be just a nightmare to deal
Right.
with in that
That's
position.
that's very true.
So,
Yeah, it's sort of like you want the vehicle back at home and then you want your bots up front.
hmm.
But then it's like you want your vehicle lab up front, and obviously you start with the bot lab at back then.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
hate
yeah.
vehicle constructors because of their pathing and because of their build cost being higher. Like so
Hmm.
much so that I like the open bot lab for just to build like the good constructors and then build a bot lab or a vehicle lab so that I can build the good units. Like that's
Totally.
yeah. I mean, it's like there's the opportunity cost in that because it's like you're spending build power on reclaiming and rebuilding a lab and blah 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 blah. But
Totally.
pluses and minuses.
Yep.
I mean, it's a thing that people do, but
Yep. Well, it's always pluses and minuses.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
yeah.
I guess just to sum up, like, I think um, probably the biggest thing is you know, I mean, I guess we could just put it together and say like gathering the information, either by zooming out and seeing what your allies are doing to help you make choices, or, you know, getting the information yourself by getting ghosts or setting up more. I saw you did
Running
have a
ticks in
beholder
or
and stuff, but like, yeah, just having more information by doing scouting stuff, you know, no matter what it is, if it's like, ticks or ghosts or beholders or whatever. Um, because yeah, I think that would have changed how you played that quite a bit. Um,
hmm. I think I was in a position to maybe kill them multiple times,
yeah.
especially because of what was going on in middle and them not feeling safe
Hmm.
to um do both.
Right. Yeah, and then the same thing with like the bombing run, like, just having a bit more information by zooming out would have potentially saved you a lot, but yeah. I mean, I guess that's the summary right there. It's like that's it. It's like that's the biggest like big thing. Like everything else is kind of like minor mistakes or minor things that are like maybe this was a bad idea or maybe
Yeah,
it
well,
wasn't like.
there are some things that are very cut and dry. Like I should have done better. Is I should have had one
Mhm.
of my con turrets that was reclaiming my lab, pouring metal into my bot lab, so that I didn't overflow 400 or 500 of my metal.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, yeah, that's like all mistakes, like stuff that to correct already. So it's like we don't really have to,
Hmm.
like dive on that so much. I mean, I guess I
Of
like to try
course,
to sum up these things with like, here's the list of like,
the big
the big
takeaway.
picture like things to take away. Yeah, and for you, it's just the scouting thing. It's just getting that information and trying to make decisions off that because it seems like with the information that you do get, you make good choices. So just trying to get better at getting the information to make even better choices.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And something Khalid and I have talked about is killer instinct of like knowing when you can kill, like when you can go for an all in. Again, can I end the game here? And you need
Hmm.
to have the information that you can do that. Otherwise, you can be feeding really badly. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Sateo. This is really helpful.
Good. I'm glad you got something out of it, because like sometimes for me it's like, I realize you and I like you're even I think ahead of me on TS and stuff, but like I hope I can bring a new perspective or like, help you see something that you didn't see yourself or
Totally.
it gets hard because in a way I feel judged of like who am I to say to try to point out these things, but it's like I think I do an okay job, just like like looking at the big picture of like things like that. So I know it's
Yeah.
very easy for people to kind of dwell on all the little tiny mistakes and point out like, okay, one, you should have done this, two, you should have done that, three, you should have done that, and it's like, well, what does this all sum up to mean? Like, what can they work on in general? So I'm glad you're a good sport.
Yeah, thank you.